pero esa no es la verdad. Yo llevo en el cuerpo un dolor que no me deja respirar. Llevo en el cuerpo una condena que siempre me echa a caminar. Me dicen el desaparecido, que cuando llega ya se ha ido. Volando vengo, volando voy, deprisa, deprisa, rumbo perdido. Me dicen el desaparecido, fantasma que nunca está. Me dicen el desagradecido, pero esa no es la verdad. Yo llevo en el cuerpo un motor.
Hello, 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 hello. Can everyone hear me? I'm tired today. In class watching this, I'm not going to say that's a good idea. If you're in class, you probably should be in class, not here. Anyway, so we are discussing our second live for Lord of the Flies. Lord of the Flies, I'm going to admit I read to the wrong chapter. I know I had said to chapter 9. I thought it was chapter 8, so I only read to chapter 8. So I need everyone to bear with me. We're not going to talk about chapter 9. I hope that's okay. Because I don't want to get spoiled. I haven't read this book in forever. So if that's okay, that'd be awesome. I read to chapter 8, not chapter 9. I'm kind of pissed because then I was like, wait, was it chapter 8 or chapter 9? And then I skimmed chapter 9 just to look through it, and I was like, oh man, there's so much cool stuff in chapter 9. But it's okay because, we have a lot to talk about. So where do we start? I've been thinking about this because I've been having a lot of discussions. Tessa and I have been reading together, and we've been having a lot of discussions about what's going on, how much of this book can we compare to society because they are kids, what are the things that they're playing at. So, chapter 8 was really weird. Wait, did I read chapter 8? No, I didn't read chapter 8, so I read to chapter 8. So we can't talk about chapter 8. Sorry. We have to talk to chapter 7. Shadows and Small Trees. So when we started reading again, there was the Beasts of the Air. And then there was also a couple chapters. Let me see, hold on. This one. Ooh, okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, Pops. Thank you. So, the chapters are long, which I'm also a big fan of. Very different to Kurt Vonnegut or even sometimes other writers that we've read. The chapters can be shorter and quicker. These are long stories. They're taking you through a journey per chapter. So let's let's talk about individual characters and their growth. I think that'd be a good way to kind of ease into this story and what we're talking about. So let's talk about characters. What do we think of Ralph? I saw someone said they love Ralph, so big chapters with amazing content and amazing descriptions of environment. I think that's cool too. I love how much attention he puts to the color of things, to the time of day, and the way he interacts with each character. He's really giving us an entire image, and I think a lot of the color is foreshadowing. So I do like Ralph. New to this, have to step up my game. I like Ralph. Okay, but what do we see in Ralph? Why do we like him? Do we like that he seems to be measured? He seems to be a thinker. And we discover a chapter where he discovers his own thought. He realizes that it's a process and it's what gives him value. And he sees that value in other people. Chapter 5 showed him noticing more, being more mature. This very much would not happen this way with poor kids or kids of color or girls. I think that's a very generalized statement, and I don't think we can say that. He seems to be incredibly self-aware. I really like Ralph. I think he's a great character and leader. I like his way of thinking. I like Ralph, especially now that he's teaming up with Piggy. I think he started to notice his flaws and how others can help him with that. Okay, so we're seeing that Ralph is making steps forward through this process. He's one of the only people that we've seen on this island other than Piggy. He's the only other person that's realized the importance of what they're doing. The importance of longevity. The importance of saying, look guys, having pigs and meat is all great and dandy, but if we don't have a fire going, there's going to be no smoke and we're never going to get saved. We're not trying to be the best at hanging out here. We're trying to get saved, and we can't forget our mission. Ralph has always been one of my favorites. He's childish and immature, but he steps up and adapts to the situation. He tries to cope and to help them survive while others just want to play. I think it's unfair to call him childish and mature because I think all of them are, because they are children and they are immature. So I think that they are accepting. Just Ralph is the first one to start to realize the importance of his actions and the importance of the other people around him. Like he's starting to see other things aside from himself. I like the way he tries to solve problems. I think it's interesting. I like how Ralph is flawed, but in a way, as a little boy. He's a thinker, and talk about him... sorry, we can't talk about him yet. Don't talk about him there. I kind of like him. I think his opinion on Piggy changed a lot. Others always talk about the conch, but somehow he always wants Piggy to have the conch to talk. He knows that Piggy, oh gosh, is important and valid. I feel like he gives him some kind of legitimately. Yes, I think he respects Piggy. He's one of the few people that's like, hey, look, I know our society does not put value in people that look like Piggy. We put value in people that are older, stronger, look bigger, and look just more attractive. But Piggy is very smart. And Piggy has been saying all the things that Ralph has started to think since the minute we got there. Piggy's head has always been screwed on tight. I like how he's trying so hard to do the right thing for everyone. I like the fact that Ralph is not like Jack. He questions himself. He knows he can make mistakes. Jack thinks he's untouchable and flawless. He matures quickly, and suddenly he had to adapt to the situation we're in. Ralph is one of the few kids that recognizes the fire is their only way off the island. True, Ralph has great character development. I agree. Ralph is a kid, unsure and childish, but oh my god, when he has to be a leader and brave, he is. I agree. Ralph has a voice, but he doesn't know how to use it to keep everyone grounded. I think Piggy is Ralph's little angel on his shoulder. Ooh, I like that. I like that. But there was one line that I read yesterday that... Where was it? It was in the 70s. It was... There's a... Let me keep reading, because I know exactly what the line is, so let me keep looking. As he is maturing, the others are getting worse, moving away from getting rescued to ruling. I think there's some foreshadowing in the book that will lead us to that understanding, that the others are starting to kind of lose the things that will keep them together, the society that's built them and allowed them to stay strong, the community. And I think it was when, was it Roger throwing the rocks at Henry? It was the line about how society had conditioned his arm to keep a 6-foot barrier around Henry as he threw rocks at him so as to never hit him. That was like a foreshadowing, because that barrier, instead of being don't throw rocks at someone else, is now, well, don't hit him with a rock. You know? It's slowly withering, and I think that was a very big foreshadowing to be like, look, we're already at this point where it's not don't throw rocks, it's don't hit him with a rock. So we're going to see that crunch in again. And I think we even see that happen once again when they play the game of the hunt. And they actually... Who is it that's in the hunt? I was going to say what that girl just said, a piggy is like the little angel to Ralph. Cool. Don't you think that Ralph and Jack are like the opposite, but there's a balance between them that is piggy? Ooh, very interesting idea. I didn't think of that. I mean, most of her in the beginning, we see how childish he is, calling Piggy that in front of everyone, but we see him mature and the quickest and adapts to survive. True. I agree with that. We see his growth of maturity. We see his depth of understanding, whereas to me, it doesn't feel like all these other kids have been here for longer than for as long as Ralph. It looks like Ralph's been on that island forever, and it's like, I need to get off. Whereas the other kids are like, we're still having fun. And Ralph's like, no, we need to get off this island. Ralph is worried about the future, so he's going in the direction of a natural-born leader. He doesn't respect him enough to stand up for him, to stop the mean behavior the other kids have towards him. Random question. Okay. I think that Ralph wants to play too because he's still a kid, but he knows when it's time to talk about serious issues. I love him, and I think his personality could represent the faces of society. I think each of them represents a faction of society. But not a faction, but just like a certain type. But at the same time, how much of society can we say that they represent when they're just kids? Does that mean they have a pure understanding of society without getting the depth in? Because think about it. Now Ralph is starting to see the chess game that he has to play to get what he wants, which I think is inherent in society. You have to play chess. Whereas before it was so impulsive. It was so like, let's build houses. Yeah. And then no one wanted to build a house. So Ralph and Simon end up building all of them. And everyone's like, let's hunt. And then Jack committed to that. But don't you think that Ralph is unable to avoid the other boys' excitement? And even though he stays strong, he still is a kid. And I think we see that when even Ralph loses himself in the game. And even when Ralph starts to enjoy things that he said aren't cool. Ralph is a scholarship kid. Jack is a silver spoon kid. Was that said in the book, or is that something you're saying? Because if it's you're saying, I agree. Jack is getting more aggressive and impulsive and becoming more wild with time. Ralph is a kid, young, but he has some of the best development in the story. I love him for that because obviously he isn't growing older and becoming mature. Thrown into a crazy life. Okay. It seems like Ralph is on the verge of metaphorical puberty, the change from child to adult. Well, let's talk about that change. What does the change from child to adult mean? I think it really means the ability to not only look at yourself and understand your story. It's the ability to say, wait a second, what do they need? What do they need? What do they need? Not what do I need? It's that change from like the self to being part of a group. And Ralph sees that. Or he's starting to anyway. Or he's starting to see his priorities are straight with what's important. We're talking about Lord of the Flies. This is our second live about Lord of the Flies. If you haven't read or aren't caught up, I rechecked this morning. We were supposed to read to chapter 9. I read to chapter 8, so we are discussing up to chapter 8 today. I'm surprised they handle life without grown-ups so well, considering they're all still so young. I think this is something that we see with the little ones. They don't know how to cope. They have still created a community of little ones. Like they're hanging out by themselves. But they're not thriving in the way that the boys are. Like the older guys. And I wonder why. I think so too. The little ones kind of, that's a good question, that's a good thing. The little ones represent the general population in the sense that they're kind of just at liberty of whoever is in charge and tells them what to do. Little ones, we're moving here, they do it. Hey, we're moving this, we're doing it. We're building a fire, they have to do it. To me, the little ones remind me of the proles in 1984. In a way. live by their own rules. They don't really bother them, but they have to deal with them when it comes time. Piggy could represent fear, and Ralph could represent maturity, and the glasses represent intelligence. I think the glasses represent intelligence. There's something about how they were used, and that was one of the first steps forward to start a plan. I think Piggy represents like smart intelligence more than fear, because they're all afraid. Even Ralph admits to being afraid at one point. He's like, yeah, I'm scared, so what? We all are. And it's really cool the way he does that, because he takes away Jack's power with fear by admitting to it. And that's another thing. Jack is always using people's fear to get power, and then using his strength and his ability to kill to get power. Whereas Ralph is always trying to not get power, he's trying to get them saved. He's rooting for an objective, and he knows that he has to deal with Jack in a certain way. He enjoys his power at the beginning, liking that the others listen to him when they stop, because he becomes a bit childish, then matured again, and becomes a stronger and better leader. Cool. Ralph and Piggy are the ones actually worried about their own safety and want to go home. The rest living their own little reality and don't understand the risks of staying there. Well, they don't understand the risks of thinking, I think, short term. That, I think, is a comment to society. How we'd rather figure out a way to kill the pig and eat meat and do all of that, little things, not even worry about shelter. Then let's worry about shelter so that we can survive longer than just getting pigs. Let's worry about the fire so that we can be saved, because that's our ultimate goal. It's how I think society is always looking for the quick fix instead of what's best for us in the long run. And I think we're seeing that play. The rest don't see the seriousness of being stranded there, but Piggy and Ralph do. Robert was the one getting hit in the pig game. Okay. So I think that's a very important part too, because even Ralph loses himself when they're playing the pig game. And he starts having fun, and it becomes this weird thing, and it even goes too far. And then Jack suggests, we should try it again, but you dress up like a pig this time. And we get a fire. And what did I say about ritual?
About when people get caught up in ritual, they don't think for themselves.
And that was the power of ritual. There's a ritual there that they participate in, the ritual of the hunt, and how the ritual has the ability to take over individuality. And I think back to our book that we read, 1984, when the 2-minute hate, even Winston found himself emphatically hating, the other guy, yelling at this man that he doesn't even know, because of just the energy of this ritual. For 2 minutes, they just splurge hate. And there's something about that, the power of ritual, the power of community. Guys, I'm scrolling down to the bottom. I've missed a lot of questions. I'm so sorry. So, Jack is obviously obsessed with hunting. Why is that? He's a child, right? Interesting. Well, the idea of hunting gives him strength, which he thinks gives him power. The idea of killing makes the other boys think, wow, he's stronger, which gives him power. He's playing to their fear and weaknesses as a person of strength and to get things done. I think we've seen that in politics, where a person plays the strong man and the ability to let go of what is truly necessary to play at certain fears to gain power. We've seen that historically in society. And when we think about when this book was written in the 50s, they're coming from an example of World War II. What leaders were in power in World War II, and what styles were they at when we think of both the Axis and the Allied powers? And how did they get power? He is obsessed with hunting because it gives him power. He is the most brave in some way, and he uses it to become a leader. Well, he uses his willingness to put himself on the line as bravery. I don't know if he's really the most brave, because when it comes time to be brave, I think Ralph always beats Jack out. But Jack still has the thing where he's like, I've killed, and I've done something for this. All you've done is yell at us and make rules. What movie did we watch last night?
Black Panther.
To me, I just saw Black Panther, and there's something in that. When Michael B. Jordan's character comes and challenges the king of Wakanda. And then when he does so in a way by saying, look, I brought you the guy you wanted. I've already done more for you than this king has. I think that's the power that Jack is trying to play at. That saying like, look, I've already done what he can't do. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Is that a good parallel? There's something in that. Jack is very much like Michael B. Jordan's character, looking to exploit one need to get what he wants. Whereas Ralph is more like the king, trying to say what is best for the people in longevity, not just for right now. Great player. Okay, thank you. I think that's a good parallel. And I think when we look at it from that perspective, we see the differences then. Jack always trying to exploit war and using his power and violence to get what he wants, whereas Ralph is always trying to say, no, we need to stick to the things that are important. All right, so what else do we want to talk about? I think we see it foreshadowed in a lot of cool ways, and I thought that was an interesting thing. It's an interesting parallel, especially when you look at the time frame that they both take place in. There's also the significance of the characters with no names. The boy with the mulberry face. And Piggy, we never know their actual names. They're significant, but they seem opposite. It's almost like they're significant because of their place. The boy with the mulberry face who disappeared, that's a place. He's no longer there. Piggy has a place as the kid that always has good ideas, but he's annoying. They only give names to the people of power, the people that do something. But then again, Simon and Roger and Henry and some of the little ones got names. Percival. That's an interesting thing. Why don't we know some of their names? That's something I'm gonna look up, and we're gonna do that. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. I think that's interesting. Who do you identify with and why? I identify with Ralph because I understand his saying, well, we have to get off the island. That's the most important thing. And I identify with Piggy wanting to make sure everyone stays smart because that's the best. The more we commit to these rules, the better chance we have. Just saying the name Piggy says a lot. Well, I mean, what are they always trying to kill? The pig. I think it's very telling. Simon is my favorite. I think he's underrated. He's the mediator, the calming presence. Piggy's smart, but he argues and provokes others. Simon tries to calm them. Yes, that's true. I have not seen Infinity War, by the way, so any spoilers here, you'll be banned from this book club, I swear. I do not take that lightly. Could Jack be hiding his fear with other people's fear and his strength? Possibly. Jack and Piggy may be the best part of Ralph. Like they both represent Ralph's person somehow. Interesting. What you said about Jack made me think about 1984 because the big brother used to manipulate people, striking fear in them too. And then he used that as power. And then they used ritual to continue that power. Think of how powerful that killing the pig ritual was. That was something that Jack created. And even Ralph lost himself in it. There's something there. I don't think it's more interesting that we don't know their names, so we all want to know why, and we keep thinking about it. I identify with Piggy and Ralph. I would be Ralph's and Piggy's side for sure. Honestly, probably Simon. He's the guy a little behind doing his thing. Sometimes I identify with Piggy and the others, and others with Ralph, I think. I won't spoil anything, just go watch it. I'm doing it today. That's why tonight. I want to be a Ralph. I identify more with Piggy. Would probably be a Jack in these circumstances. I think it'd be hard not to be a Jack. Because like I said, you're dealing with very quick, right up front things you want to deal with. Ralph requires some patience. And it's hard when you're in a situation like that. I'm reading your things now, guys. It's awesome. Simon being sort of a Christ figure makes him the most interesting character. Enthusiasm 85. What do you mean by that? A Christ figure. Can you elaborate? Because that sounds cool. Piggy's a free thinker. My 10th grade English teacher used to say that Jack and Ralph were foils in every way, including their names. Jack is a name she associated with good chiz. Ralph, not so much. Millennial Diaries. Interesting. You used to identify with no characters. You identify with no characters now, but used to identify with Piggy and Ralph. Now you look at it through a different lens. Why? What do you see differently? Simon is very kind. He's probably the only one who treats Piggy like a person and not like Punching Ball, you know. That's true. Even Ralph falters there. I seriously love how confident Simon became, and it's really amazing. I love him so freaking much. I don't like these kids, but I feel for them because society they were brought up in and how that informed their choices. Okay, let's talk about that. Millennial Diaries. The society that they were brought up in informs their choices. So when you think about the part where, the beginning of chapter 6, I'm going to read it really quickly. Oh, damn it. No. It's Beast from the Air. No. Oh my gosh, it's chapter 5? Alright, so there's one thing I want to say. So, the tide was coming in, and there was only a narrow strip of firm beach between the water and the white. Stumbling stuff near the palm terrace. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. It's chapter 6. Maybe it's chapter 7. Okay, I can't remember, but essentially, it's the beginning. I want to say it's chapter 5 or 6. It's one of those two chapters. But in it, he talks about how the boys were too accustomed to the life they had lived in England, where they had worked and played and done it like that. And now there was this island way of living, where the sun came out and then went away, and it was different things of heat. And they had a problem adjusting to that understanding of the island. And I think there's something they're talking there. They've lost their connection to the island, and they can only now live in the way that society has done. You know, they're having a problem adjusting to the way that they need to live on the island. Chapter 9 changes everything. I'm interested to read it. Sorry, guys. I think Ralph and Piggy represent every one of us and makes us think, what would we do in this situation? Would we be the bad guy, the smart guy, the annoying guy? Yo, cool. It also sort of makes think of the labels we give them. Very nice. But a sign hailed down from the world of grown-ups, though at the time there was no child awake to read it. Cool. He was the one who has the visions and will work towards helping the little ones. Him helping them get fruit is like Jesus feeding the poor. Interesting. Looking at the story now as an adult, especially with what's going on now, it's hard to empathize with them. People of color, kids, even privileged ones, need to work twice as hard. What do you mean, especially what's going on now? I don't understand that comment. Because to me, it's the fact that everyone is on the same plane, and then we're only broken up by their different personality types, makes it even. Well, they're commenting on a direct, I think, European from society, that what we consider general society in Western culture, I guess. I don't know. I think they're commenting on that. And in doing that, they're making everyone even by making it all dudes and all white dudes. So there's no other arguments of being like, well, if Piggy was white, or if Piggy was a boy, you know, they've made it everyone. I don't think kids today would react the same way the kids in. I'd be interested to see that. I don't know how kids would act. I hope that it would be better, but I think it also depends where those kids come from. I think what Millennial Diaries, what you're bringing up, the idea that a different class of people, a different ethnicity of people, a different culture of people might survive better or worse on the island, that's an argument to be made. I agree with that. That might change. People that are naturally more inclined to be connected to nature might do better on the island than people that lived in a society that grew up in a city. He's the one who has the visions and will work towards helping out the little and helping them out. Okay. Isa J91, I suggest you get the book. You've been asking a lot of questions. It's called Lawyer of the Flies by William Golding. There are quite a few pages in it. If you want to catch up, we're going to be reading later. Yeah, there you go. Take a screenshot. Anyone else? That was it. What do you think would happen nowadays? Would kids react like that? I don't know. I mean, I think there is something back then that makes kids more connected to nature just in the fact that they didn't have cell phones. As the white kids, if this was a mixed group, either mixed with gender or race, societal pressures would inform much different choices. No, absolutely, and I think that's one of the reasons why they put everyone on an even plane, so to speak. And I think it would. I don't think he was trying to illuminate the difference in the way people are treated in society. I think he's trying to illuminate some pitfalls from the way societies run today. I think, based on the art we're creating right now, I think things would go better. But I don't know. I saw a comment that I thought was awesome, that I was reading something else at the time, so I didn't get to bring it up. But Jack is choosing to be naked. It's not about working together, it's about being the best. What do you mean? Jack choosing to be naked is him officially agreeing to savagery or some sort of animalistic type quality. Only thinking of the day-to-day to survival and not longevity. They accepted the pleasures of the morning, the bright sun, the whelming sea, and the sweet air, as a time when play was good and life was so full that hope was not necessary and therefore forgotten. Simon is one of my favorite characters because I said before, he has become more confident and strong. I love the fact that hurting someone is the least thing. Beauty Queens of Liva Bre- Oh, it's a response to Lord of the Flies? Because that'd be really cool. I think when we introduce other ethnicities, other genders, other just roles in society that we have already, there would be a much different discussion as to what would really happen. Who would take what? So I think that would be cool. I'm going to look that up. If you could tweet that at me, that'd be awesome. I think Simon is base character because he has an ironic but at the same time very strong character. It's funny that's why it's very important. I don't understand what you say. I'm Italian. Oh, sorry. The main argument is that they're acting that way because they're taught to value traditional gender roles, and the idea was that girls wouldn't behave the same. That's the main debate in the media. That's a very interesting argument. I would agree with that, 100%. Yeah, kids would freak out about no cell service. But I think people would get past that. I don't know. I don't know. I can't write that book. The technology of today has limited many of the ways that we would be able to survive in a situation like this. I agree. You should upload a picture of every new book so people can look at the post to find instead of asking here. I agree. That's a good idea, Avery Fontes. I will do that. 28. No Wi-Fi. Dead in a minute. Tim, you got to get back to reading, man. You'll catch up. You'll catch up. I have faith. What do you think is going to happen with Ralph and Jack's relationship? Will they agree to cooperate together or become more distant? I think they'll become more distant. I really need to say that I love the way the offer shows us that even kids can have a dark side too. Yeah. I agree. I think it's interesting. I think it's a hard call. Some kid grows up taught to fish hunt like my girls and others no more electronics. I agree. I think it's also just that's why I said the culture you're raised in is very important. I've never been hunting. That's something that I was never raised with. Hunting, how to track animals, none of that. But there are other ways that I think I would be able to benefit a group of people in establishing things. So there are pros and cons to this. Do you think kids would definitely react a different way now because of how much we're being bombarded with bullying? That I don't know. Bullying, if it's still happening now, and it happened in this book, I don't know how much that has changed, unfortunately. I would hope so. Yeah, he completely gives over, while Ralph, who still has hope, clings to the idea that someone will rescue them. True. I think Jack versus Piggy Ralph relationship reflects human nature and what would happen to us in this situation. Would we revert to violence, aggression, or hold on to reason? The symbolism Holding uses, though, equates nakedness with savagery. Is pretty racist, though. It is very racist. I would agree with that, and that's something I was talking to Tessa about. That whole idea how even the word savagery has because of its historical implications and use, it's not a word to use. So I think when we discuss it, we should bring it as a nakedness as back to some sort of like animalness. Even then I don't feel right about that. But reverting to a state of nothing instead of society telling us to wear clothing as to protect ourselves and to cover ourselves from other people. That societal decency they let go of with being naked. I think we have to look at it like that so that we can have an active discussion in it. But we should recognize the use of those words and how, because of the historical implications of such, we can't really use them in today's time, and we shouldn't, because we've grown past that. But I agree with you. But there's something in that what it's saying is the nakedness is averse to society. It's the opposite side of the coin. Society means clothing and rules and order. And the nakedness refers to the loss of all of such. I think Lord of the Flies and Jack, Ralph, Piggy in particular are all different facets of what we now call toxic masculinity. Interesting. Can you continue with that? Because I don't see where Ralph or Piggy could exemplify that as much. I could see where Jack exemplifies that tremendously so. But Piggy traditionally I don't think could exemplify that because of the fact that the way in which he tries to express himself and his intellect would deny the idea of toxic masculinity. And then I think Ralph, on the other hand, his ability to work through and think of an objective, although I don't know if we could say that all three of the boys represent toxic masculinity. I think if anything, Jack does. I think there's a balance. The book shows what true human nature is like, without the barriers of laws and rules, particularly later on. It shows how important power is to humans, how important relationships with others are. The fact that Jack can be violent at such a young age is pretty scary, pretty scarring. I agree, but you see, even when Jack is reliving the kill, when he tells him about it, he's shuddering, and he's not fully in acceptance about this. Kids are the purest people. They demonstrate humanity at its most untouched state. The boys demonstrate the ease with which we can give to primitive, savage nature. Primitive, savage nature, I think we should go into the destruction of the society that we've built and going into a very much live for themselves mentality. I think we have to read the book with an open mind. The book was written in 1954, and we're changing and meditating about the effect of words. You know? I agree 100%, and that's why we have to look at to what those words... The thing is, they're implying things that at the time people were like, yeah, cool, but now we're like, they can't... That's not cool. But that's why I say we have to think about them not as a savage way or just like a breakdown of the way society had built and raised these boys up to then. Remember, the author is British, so bring colonialism to the mix, and you've got the civilization versus savagery argument from that angle. Exactly. There's the idea that they built a facet of society that worked. And in choosing to not wear clothes, something simple, from the minute you're born, they clothe you and wrap you in a swaddling cloth. You're taught to be raised in the society. Piggy's a victim of it as much as Jack. He's looked down upon for his intelligence. A victim of what? Hey, Alberto, do you know what book we're reading next? I wasn't able to read along with this book. Yes, we'll talk about that in about 5 minutes. Interesting, though, because he chooses to be naked and he still chooses to wear the mask. He needs something to hide behind to let him perform these cruelties. I think it says something big. Kenzie Courtney, that's huge. He wants to be at his most natural state, but in doing this violence, he has to wear a mask. There's something about that. I think we have to read the book with an open mind. The book was, okay, oh gosh. Not 20 minutes, oh my gosh, am I really behind again? Ralph is the golden boy. Perfect. Jack doesn't like that, invoking jealousy, but also likes being his friend, setting up the fact the relationship could go two ways, friendship or hatred. I'm sorry we can't talk about Chapter 8 yet, but I promise you I'll be caught up next time and we'll have a whole discussion about that. Ralph is measured civilization who feels the pull of savagery but manages to resist it because he knows he ought to act. Jack gives into savagery because his priority is meat and he forgets the long game. I think his priority is prouder. Rita, what did you say? We're currently reading Lord of the Flies, William Golding. Our next book is Handmaid's Tale. Thank you. Hey, congratulations, who's Carrie? That's awesome. I love the quote at the beginning of Chapter 5 where Ralph describes life on the island as every path was an improvisation. I like that. The thing is, fear can't hurt you any more than a dream. Love that quote, too. Let's do quotes for the last little bit. Why is this happening in the middle of the week? Because I was very busy last week. We wrapped the show. I had a friend in town. It was very difficult for me to keep up. Thank you guys for my happy 5 years. Yesterday was very, very special to me. Rach in Japan, we will talk about the title the next time we speak. I think it was good to wait. Any prediction for the end of the book? I don't know if we're there yet. I think we'll do it after the next one because we're going to have 2 more lives for this book. We're going to finish this book in 2 more lives. So I think before we get to the last live, we'll talk about it. Exactly. We'll worry about quotes later. Very proud, Mariana. Congratulations. Why is this happening while some of us are in school? Sorry. I've apologized. We still have about 10 minutes, right? 15 minutes? Am I in Paris? No, I'm still in Toronto. Paris isn't until June. He discovered that with a little fall of the heart, that these were the conditions he took as normal now, and that he did not mind. This sort of deviates from the book, but the idea that back then society didn't speak out against racism, bigotry, etc. is totally false. There are people calling it out. It's just that we as a society just started listening. No. I've never said that it was never like a thing. There were always people opposed to the oppression of other people. What I'm saying is, unfortunately, as a society, when you think of the majority, that for some reason didn't gain speed, but then when you think about systemic oppression and everything, it's because certain communities benefited from that oppression and certain communities didn't. So, while we can't pretend like we're the heroes that all of a sudden thought that this was a terrible idea, because there always were people thinking that. We have to understand that now, because of our generations that have stood up to this continually, we're in the place where not for the first time, but we're a big time where society is having the conversation about this and saying we must move forward. And saying that we can't accept that. And we're using our art to tell these stories. I mean, if you guys haven't seen Donald Glover's This Is America, he's saying a lot about where we are politically and where the United States is. And it's a very fascinating thing, actually. I thought it was a really cool study. But all right, it seems like we're winding down with discussion. So let's plan what we're going to read next. So we're going to read to... We want to do it for Sunday, but 271 and we're on 179. It's less than 100 pages. No, yeah, I know, Tanya, I know. But I was saying, I agree with you. But I was saying you're right, and I was also saying, well, we have to talk about it in a certain way. But yeah, we're on the same page, Tanya. We're on the same wavelength. Let's get Tessa. We can't. She's getting ready for today. I'll borrow my hat. Oh yeah, it's a Toronto hat. The 6. Isn't that cool? I think we should just finish it too, right? What do you think we plan for Sunday and we just crush it? Also, I just noticed my book has notes at the end. And they actually help a lot. So we're going to finish the book then. I have 20 pages more to read than you guys, but I can do that. We're going to finish the book for Sunday, and we're going to do a late afternoon Sunday. I'm sorry for the people in Australia, but, oh shoot, no, this Sunday I won't be able to. Is it okay with everyone if we do a Tuesday again? Because there's this kid that I know, his name's Diego, he's my brother, and he's graduating college, so I have to go. So I'm not going to be able to do anything this weekend. It'll have to be on Tuesday again, if that's okay. I got 1 thumbs up. Some people have class. I need to rest. Thank you. So what should we do? Should we make it later in the afternoon? Should we do like a 5 p.m. so that everyone's out of class? 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which would make it... No, even then, people in LA and California can't. So if we make it 9 p.m., that means it's going to be 6 p.m. But that's really late. Can we do that? But then everyone in Europe can't. Tuesday's okay in Japan. Thanks for H in Japan. Congrats to Diego. Yes. Or should we do it next weekend? The following weekend is what? Give me... All right, you know what? Today's the 8th. 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16. I think want to be here. So let's... I'm going to get back to you guys. Because I really want to start the next book too. I'm very excited to read it. And I have Diego's thing, so I know I'm going to be busy this whole weekend. I'm not going to be able to do it this weekend. I don't want to do it during the week because we're limiting a lot of people. That's my problem. I don't want to limit. I want everyone to be able to be a part of this. So if we waited a week, could we, or should we do it? Okay, let's just plan for Tuesday at the same time. Is that okay? Okay, and thank you, Camille. Handmaid's Tale is going to be tackling some very difficult subjects. It gets into some serious language and just ideas and whatnot. I want to make sure that everyone that's going to be reading it along with us will check in. If you're under the age of 18 or you feel that you still have to ask your parents for permission, please do so. Please ask your parents. Please make sure that you are reading it with permission. And that it's cool, because I don't want to get yelled at thinking that I'm telling you guys to read things you shouldn't be reading. But I'm excited to discuss that book. So for right now, we have about 100 pages left to read. And it's Tuesday. I'm going to plan for 1 week from now. Let's do Wednesday. Wednesday of next week. Let's do Wednesday of next week and see where that lands us. And I will confirm that on my Insta story. Does that work? All right, so right now we'll plan... Okay, right now we're going to plan... My goodness. Tuesday at 12 p.m. Toronto time. Right now. If that changes, I will give you at least a day in advance. Okay? I got a couple thumbs up. Yeah? Awesome. So right now we're going to do Tuesday at 12 p.m. We're planning that again. It might change. It might not. But right now, Tuesday, 12 p.m., finishing Lord of the Flies. Let's get this book out of the way. Let's finish it. I'm very excited. And then I'm excited to start the next one. We would start Handmaid's Tale probably that week, but we wouldn't have another live for another week. We'd probably read a bigger chunk of it first. That's my vibe right now. Also, I'm on vacation, so I'm hanging out. I'm not in a routine anymore. I'm trying to establish a different routine, so we're working on that. So, let's do that. 12 p.m. next Tuesday, we're planning. We're going to finish the book. Thank you guys so much for joining again. It was an awesome discussion. You guys brought up a lot of really cool ideas. Keep thinking in that direction. Look up the meaning of the book. Some of the questions you have now are some of the questions you're thinking about asking. See if you can do some research and bring some interesting answers for everyone. So check it out. Let's see what we can do. I will talk to you guys next week. Have a great day. Remember, keep thinking, keep questioning, keep needing more, keep being forces of positive change for you and those around you. Keep watching good art. Keep perpetuating the art and the world you want to live in. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. I will let you guys know next week how I thought of Infinity War as well. So I'll leave you with that. Have a good one, guys. Until next time.